Hey family, peace and love. I'm back with another video that I've been meaning to do for a while. I've been promising y'all this video, and it took a while to get some of the research documented that I had and get it all together, and then just having the time to actually put this video together. But I definitely want to go in on a few very essential topics because there's been a lot of misconceptions when it comes to land mandate, what that is, allodial title, and it all goes back to the oral statements that I have on here, and we're gonna get into that too, and I'm gonna break that down. But I want people to understand the lawful side of these things, and it's because of that. I think there's a lot of misconfusion I hear. Um, you see people making the news, with terrible headlines. Moorish sovereign citizen squash on multi-million-dollar mansion and things of that sort. And you know, this is where I'm gonna be doing a lot of correcting on people's concepts today. So definitely stay tuned. And I don't normally say this, but share this to anybody that that may need this information, because this one is going to be really crucial today, um, dealing with property and things of that sort, and you know making the correction of what was said and what the Moors are actually entitled to when it comes to land. Um, you know, just because I believe a lot of people haven't went back and really looked up what was said, and then went into legal definitions of these things in international law. And I'm gonna try and give some new information if people have never heard it, and try and help people out. But the bulk of this comes from the oral statements of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, number 39 and 40, and excuse me. Essentially, what they said. I paraphrased it a little bit, but up until that period of time, the United States received a 50-year mandate for this land. At this conference, and they're talking about the Pan American Conference of 1928, the mandate was given to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Yeah, and it was 1928 when this happened. Him and the brother Kirkman Bay, and you know, a lot of people believe that that means that you know um, Moors have the rights to this land as far as to take any land because it's all of our land because of this mandate. Um, and that's just not true. But, I'm going to go in, let's go back to the source first, um, to what was actually said. And this is out of the oral statements, number 39 and number 40. Um, and I'm going to really break it down so y'all bear with me. This video may be a little bit longer than most of my regular ones, but starting off, brother I Cook Bay, Gigi is Grand Governor of Illinois, Emeritus. Um, that's a good word to look up, but it basically means a well-studied elder. That's usually retired, like in a university type of sense, but it can mean in other ways too. Um, okay, and that brother told brother R. Love L, Grand Sheik of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and brother C. Tyson Bay, past I want to say this is chair of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Um, about that time when the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali and brother C. Kirkman Bay went to the Pan American Conference in 1928. At that time, the Holy Prophet went there and represented the Moors. There was an Indian chief representing the Native Americans, or American Indians, excuse me. Um, the conference was in Havana, Cuba. And um, I want to make a real quick insertion here. Um, Cuba itself, um, before the United States was in power, um, Spain and France were here first, and Spain in particular, um, which was, you could say, the bleached out second half of the Moorish Empire, expanding over here. The Spanish Empire, when they came over here, they married into the royal families and things of that sort. But the administrative um, district of what they called the Viceroy of New Spain was Cuba. And that essentially means that Cuba was like, you could say, the Washington, D.C., of that empire. So, um, you know, Cuba, yeah, this was right, this conference, 1928, happened a little bit after the Cuban Revolution, and that's a whole nother, set of stories that I could get into that's Moorish history. Um, but I think it's really important so everyone know, this conference, and this was pre United Nations and all of that. They held this conference in Cuba. Um, Let me continue. And the nations of both North, South, and Central America were represented. Secretary of State Hughes of the United States represented the United States at this conference. Um, so there were three governments, you could say, essentially represented from the area of what we call the United States. There was the Moors, there was the American Indians, and then uh, there was the government of the United States as well, all represented. Um, Brother C. Kirkman Bay was the interpreter for the Holy Prophet at this conference. Uh, Brother I. Cook Bay said that when the Holy Prophet and Brother C. Kirkman Bay's ship was tied up at the dock, the Cuban army was standing on the dock, and Brother Kirkman Bay said something to them in Spanish, and the army came to attention. So it must have been some of authority. Um, then he and the prophet came down from the ship. At the conference, Brother C. Kirkman Bay addressed the conference in both Spanish and Arabic. And when the Secretary of State of the United States heard Brother Kirkman Bay speak, he said, "That's a dangerous man." I believe that. uh, Up to that period of time, here we go. The United States received, it had already received, a 50-year mandate for this land, which would have meant that they had the mandate previous to the Moors. So, I would say that in particular, kind of shows it's not necessarily ownership and allodial title in a sense because um, that would have given the Europeans, that right, which they've never had on this land. And I'm gonna get further than that when we get into the definition of mandate. Um, at this conference, the mandate for this land was given to Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Brother G. Cook Bay, Grand Sheikh Emeritus of Temple One, said that Noble Drew Ali showed us the mandate in the ADAP chamber, um, which is really interesting. So um, he was given this mandate, uh, and he showed it in the ADAP chamber, which is important too. So I want people to understand um, that this mandate was a document within itself, separate from the filings of what Moors are calling the express trust. uh, in the Cook County, if that makes sense. So, you know, him saying, or the brother saying that he saw it in the ADAP chamber, uh, means basically the prophet wasn't making this particular document public, to everyone. He wasn't just flashing it around, because something of that importance, if it were stolen or things of that sort, um, it definitely be detrimental. Um, you know, and also in number 40, they go a little bit into it, but I'll read that one real quick too. Brother I. Cook Bay, Grand Governor Emeritus of Illinois, said that the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali told the Moors that the Europeans went to the Moroccan government and asked for permission to come over here to the United States to develop this land. Excuse me. And they were given a 50-year mandate to do so. Uh, then the Europeans went to an old Grand Sheik and asked him to give them some people to help develop this land. Uh, the Sheik told them to take these Moors because they are not doing anything, which is really interesting. And I've heard some people interpret that into slavery. I don't know if I want to go that far with it, but it's definitely interesting. The prophet saying that they went to the government and asked them specifically, saying that they want to develop over here, which is essentially what is talked about in the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, and the things surrounding that document. So let's move on. So I want to go a little bit further, and let's go into the definition, and I'm going to qualify this further with sources later on, but I want to go into what a mandate is. Um, a mandate is authority without ownership. An international binding, international law. It's a binding obligation or contract issued from an international organization. Um, you know, More specifically now, UN, League of Nations is one that was pre-UN, and also the Pan American Conference. Um, so, a binding obligation issued from one of these international organizations to take or administer and control of designated territories. So that is definitely different from actual um, ownership, or and you know these subtleties in definition, and maybe the misunderstanding of it could be why people are trying to go make claim to properties that are not truly abandoned, just unoccupied, thinking that they have the right to, because we're Moors and the prophet got a land mandate over here. Um, let's continue though. Mandate, authority without ownership. Um, Colony, authority through ownership. And if you're into property as I am, that would sound like, in a sense, adverse possession. Gaining authority through ownership. You know, I'm going to the explanation real quick. Colonies are areas of land that fall under control of foreign power and are permanently owned by that power in every aspect. Um, 13 colonies. Mandated territories, excuse me, are areas of land that are administered, policed, and controlled by foreign powers, um, where that control is authorized by an international multi-body, i.e. the UN, um, usually for a distinct purpose or until certain things come to pass. Um, That's a decent definition. Um, I have a few more in here, just to give y'all um, an idea. Um, Civil law mandates were the instructions which the emperor addressed to public functionaries. Mandate, making something mandatory. You know, and you could go further into that. Just not necessarily applying to what we have here, but here you can see on the sources at the top of the website uslegal.com. Mandate. A commission is a commission or contract by which one person requests someone to perform some service gratuitously. Uh, the commission becomes effective when the mandatory agrees. In other words, the parties should voluntarily intend to enter into the contract, which is why I kind of, or I did use a contract in parentheses in my definition, saying, that the document is a contract in a sense. Um, and I was just really doing that more to show that, it's a distinct document from, you know, what I think people are trying to say it is. Uh, Under international law, this refers to an authority given by the League of Nations, see that it go predating the UN, to certain governments to take over the administration and development of designated territories. So that development, administration, and development. So that's not ownership, but development, does give you um, some rights of use to a certain extent. You know, um, the thing is, I'm gonna have to do a whole video on abandonment and what abandoned property is, going into that and how to research on that. That might be another topic I need to do pretty soon. Um, yeah, here. In international law, a mandate is a binding obligation used from an intergovernmental organization um, to a country which is bound to follow the instructions of the organizations. So a mandate is telling or giving, specific authority, you know, as we read a little bit earlier. You can say policing, controlling, administering, things of that sort. Um, so this is the power of the mandate and what the Moors are supposed to be doing. And the prophet was directly killed to keep this from going on. But I want to go further into a couple more things to really get some overstanding into people of what's going on. Um, Allodial Title, because this is what the people are referring to, and the document that a lot of people are trying to write up and not really having full understanding um, of what it is, the full components of it. And here, if you've never heard of it at all, let me go into the definition. Allodial Title, and this is from real property. Ownership, free and clear of superior landlord. Absolute ownership is what allodial title is. And what most Moors that are into property at all are striving for, whether it's in a property that they may have already had a mortgage on, been paying on, or trying to acquire, you know, and that's definitely something we need. Um, yeah, going back to the same source, allodial title is a real property ownership system where the real property is owned free and clear of any superior landlord. In this case, the owner will have an absolute title over his or her property. Property owned under allodial title is referred to as allodial land. Um, Allodial lands are absolute property of their owner and are not subject to any service or acknowledgement to a superior. Um, so you know that's the true freedom, you know, that Moors are looking for, and we need to be attached to and have our own self-sufficient allodial land. Um, and this is what the prophet was working toward, and when he um, went to the Pan American Conference and then came back and then reestablished the Moorish Science Temple of America um, under what you could call home rule or the Herds revised statutes out there, but basically um, making the Moorish Science Temple into a municipal government. So it was more of the founding of the temple, you know, that did that. But he had already had the land mandate, which gave the authority to do so. In a sense, making the prophet the sovereign, at that time. Just to be totally honest about how it is, you know, and you know, Moors want that same power, and it's to be expected and understood that we should inherit that to a certain extent, but like I said, we have to just understand, and take into consideration, everything that really happened from a lawful perspective to do it properly. Um, so everyone talks about allodial title, but one of the things that I don't hear people talking about in particular um, is the land patent. That I've only heard one or two Moors, that do videos and specifically that are in this movement, you know, actively, going after land patents. A lot of these people, well, I'll say all of these people that have made the news don't have a land patent. Let's get into that. Land patent, supreme title to land, originally acquired with the United States of America by treaty. It grants land under treaty to the person and their heirs and assignees or assignings forever. So, um, allodial title versus a supreme title. So, um, what I'll say is, it's not that there's a difference between these two, if you don't know, but what it is the land patent, which is supreme title, by definition, is a component to the allodial title. Here, let's go in. Land patent is a supreme title to land which was originally acquired within the United States of America by a treaty. It grants the right to describe land under the treaty to the individual person named on the patent and to their heirs and assigns forever. So, when you're dealing with the land patent, you're dealing with an essential component that you need to actually have a allodial title, which means, when you see these templates that are floating around out there, where people talk about a allodial title, for the most part, they don't mention, or if they do, they don't mention properly. But I haven't seen any of them even mention the land patent, um, or even having a certified copy of the land patent, which is really essential, and knowing what to do and how to uh, integrate these documents, and even the third step that comes after that, when it comes to filing these things properly and all of that there, because these are all crucial steps to getting this completed. So there may be people out here that have land in their Moorish appellation, which is a great thing, but they don't have, all of these steps taken, and they think they're good because, you know, they may have even acquired some of these properties that were abandoned or seem to be abandoned, and a person hasn't necessarily came back to make a claim on it yet. And that's how people make the news in certain extents, because let's say, there's a multi-million-dollar mansion where someone sees this unoccupied, and goes and tries to stake a claim to it. um, you know the clerk's office and things of that sort, if there's no one watching and administering, on a daily basis, an unoccupied property, you might be able to get them to transfer name and title, in an adverse possession type of way. But as soon as someone comes with a higher claim than yours, the real estate agent or someone like that comes, and speaks with the original owner that they were in cahoots with, you know, you will have issues, and that people get trespassing and other types of charges like that, because you have to be able to do your research properly and go after truly abandoned properties, and not properties um, that people hold interest from, because you can't steal property. You can't. We can't colonize on property, but you know, in law, anyone has the right to go after abandoned property. So this is what they are doing. Europeans are doing this all the time. The Trumps and people of those sort that are well known to be janky when it comes to real estate. You know, that's what they're doing. Guaranteed. They're taking properties and things of that sort, but there's a proper process of going about it. And it's not too many places where you can even really learn about this kind of information. Um, you know, but luckily for everyone, watching my channel, you can come check me out over on my Patreon. You can see um, right here. I did a video August 1st of last year, intro to Allodial Title and property. Going in on what the step-by-step process is for gaining a Allodial Title. And you know, you could definitely join on there as one of my full-time students, and get a lot of other information as well. But you know, if you're into property, definitely take heed to the things I just said, and contact me if you need. I'm gonna leave all my information down in the description, um, including the links to the Patreon and things of that sort. You know, and we can definitely get it in. Peace and love, family.